some other concerns like possible layoffs at certain hotels and Caesars Entertainment being removed from the S&P 500. Visitors have questioned whether the Strip is still a value destination.
Caesars Entertainment, an enduring symbol of Las Vegas, behind iconic resorts like Caesars Palace, Flamingo, and Paris Las Vegas, is facing its most severe decline in decades. And amidst the numbers of debt, falling stock prices, and being removed from the S&P 500 index, there's a truth few dare to mention. 50,000 people who work here are being pushed to the brink of losing their homes, their jobs, and even their faith in this city that never sleeps. They weren't high rollers at the betting table, but the people who kept the wheels of Vegas turning, from dealers, room service staff, and chefs to night shift security guards. Now, they are the ones making the biggest bets in a game where the house has turned its back. While housing rents in Clark County nearly doubled in just 4 years and homelessness increased by 12%, those who once brought the opulence of Caesars now find themselves living on the edge of light and shadow. In today's video, join us as we trace every thread, from the boardroom decision to the folding bed in the trunk, to understand why the crack of an icon could turn 50,000 human lives into the harshest game of chance in Las Vegas. $12.3 billion, a figure equivalent to the lifetime earnings of nearly 4,000 American families. However, that is precisely the enormous debt that is weighing down Caesars in Las Vegas. A symbol once hailed as the arena of the American dream has now become a vivid testament to the brutal cost of greed. The past 9 months have likely been the most difficult period for Vegas. According to recent data from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, LVCVA, downhill skier numbers have been consistent month after month, leading to weakened business activity, particularly for leading hotel and casino corporations like Caesars. In the second quarter of 2025 alone, Caesars Las Vegas segment revenue decreased by approximately 3.7% compared to the same period. This may seem small, but for an ecosystem of this scale, it represents tens of millions of dollars evaporating. Occupancy rates also dropped by about 2 percentage points, equivalent to 27,000 empty room nights in just 3 months. The wake-up call came most clearly when Caesars was removed from the S&P 500 due to declining revenue and profits, plummeting stock prices, and a heavy debt burden, no longer meeting the index's standards for size and stability. It's understandable. How could a company burdened with $2.3 billion in debt maintain its place in the most prestigious ranking of the American economy? Under liquidity pressure, Caesars sold off major assets like the World Series of Poker and the Link Promenade to raise cash. But that seems to be just treating the symptoms, addressing the immediate consequences instead of getting to the root of the problem. So, what's the reason Caesars is in such a difficult situation? If you want to understand Caesars' problems, let the numbers speak for themselves. A night in a standard room can cost up to $300, a price that's acceptable for a luxury hotel. But the bill doesn't stop there. Along with the room rate comes the most dreaded extra charge for tourists in Vegas, the resort fee. Typically, this fee ranges from $40 to $50 per night. However, at the Caesars system, that number reaches $55. Legally, Vegas allows hotels to charge resort fees. The controversy arises from the disproportionate value received. Surcharges are deeply embedded in the default terms, but rarely come with new services or upgrades that are sufficiently convincing. As a result, tourists end up paying an extra amount equivalent to a standard room, while the included items are often vague or services they hardly use. The decline in international demand further widened the hole in the balance sheet. According to Caesars' own leadership, Canadian guests account for a significant portion of the empty room nights. Possible causes include the weak Canadian dollar, which increased the total cost of airfare, accommodation, and meals by an additional 25–30%. On travel forums, Many Canadians say that a 3-night trip to Vegas costs as much as going to Europe. When Canadians, European visitors, and other international groups hesitated, they didn't just leave. They took their wallets with them, representing millions of dollars in revenue that once sustained an entire service ecosystem, leaving a gap that is difficult to fill in the short term. Simultaneously, there was a substitution effect. Local casinos and online betting exploded across the United States. Guests who used to fly to Vegas every year can now play at a casino near home, or place bets right on their phones. As equivalent experiences become closer, cheaper, and more convenient, Vegas loses the exclusive advantage that was once the reason to fly for tourists. Once consumer habits shift, the opportunity cost of returning to Vegas becomes too high compared to the perceived value. In that context, Caesars and many hotels on the Strip participated in the Welcome to Fabulous campaign initiated by LVCVA, aiming to regain a sense of value. Offering up to 50% off room rates at Harrah's, Flamingo, Link, Planet Hollywood, and Horseshoe. Launching 2 to 3 night combo deals with $250 in F&B credit. Offering 50% off tickets to attractions like the High Roller, Fly Link, and Eiffel Tower Deck, and including local resident discounts. But in the face of that effort, what Caesars and Vegas received in return still seemed to be an empty void, along with the decisive rejection of many tourists. The solution likely doesn't lie in flashy promotional packages, but in returning to the values that once made Vegas so appealing. Free parking, generous buffets, reasonable room rates with no hidden fees, and low-denomination betting tables so everyone has a reason to come back. Can tourist trust be bought back with promotions, or can it only be rebuilt through price transparency and respect? If Vegas continues to prioritize revenue optimization over human experience, what will be left of the American dream for us to pass on to future generations? Facing that upheaval, it wasn't just corporations that took the hit. Those directly involved in operations were the ones who felt the pain most acutely. According to 8 News Now, Las Vegas, approximately 72,000 people in Nevada are unemployed, with the heaviest burden falling on Las Vegas, a city that thrives on tourism. In that whirlwind, thousands of Caesars employees were also unlikely to remain on the sidelines as the corporation gradually lost its former position. They are ordinary workers who toil through the night after the bright lights of the Strip have faded. When tourists are scarce, tips dwindle, shifts are cut, and the economic pressure weighs heavily on every meal, every monthly bill. 50,000 listeners might be a bit hard to imagine, but try to picture this. It's equivalent to the entire city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, suddenly losing their jobs and ending up on the streets. And this is not an empty warning. The impact was already evident in other parts of the valley. The Poker Palace in North Las Vegas, a facility that had been operating for over 50 years with 25,000 square feet of casino floor, was resold and closed at the end of the fall. Direct consequences. Dozens of mid-level managers were temporarily suspended, awaiting transfer to other Truckee gaming facilities. And over 126 employees were completely laid off, carrying with them concerns about providing for their families. The numbers on the economic bulletin board are therefore no longer abstract. They turned into lost work hours, late rent payments, and the indefinite postponement of small plans for an entire community. When the hands that once lit up Vegas were removed from the schedule, the social crack was no longer a prediction. It was right before our eyes. Following that alarming trend, the job market in Las Vegas saw a further decrease of 4,300 positions in August, equivalent to 0.4% compared to July, and 5,000 jobs compared to the same period last year. In the broader picture, Nevada consistently ranked first or among the highest for unemployment for months in 2025. Those seemingly dry numbers directly impact lives. Many people who spent their entire lives in Vegas have proactively left, seeking a city or even another country to escape the cycle of injustice and hardship. At the forefront of this whirlwind are the people behind the scenes: dealers, servers, technicians, security guards. The silent machines that make the big win dreams come true for visitors. When the shift schedule shrinks, they are often the first to be pushed off the chessboard of profit. But the tragedy doesn't stop at personnel quotas. This is a domino effect that has been going on for a long time. The service backbone has been broken, causing cracks to appear in small businesses, daycare centres, low-cost clinics, community churches, and more. The once seemingly eternal Wheel of Fortune has come to a halt, revealing gaps in the soul of Vegas. When the hands that once created the aura are pushed to the periphery, who will still have the strength to keep the city standing? And if for many, the American dream has now become a ticket out of America, what will we pass on to future generations? A place that is only left with lights, or a community that still knows how to hold hands? Las Vegas never stopped shining. From afar, the neon signs still flashed, and the giant screens still displayed images of lavish shows. But just turn down a side street, walk a few blocks behind the strip, and you'll find a different world, where nylon roofs tremble in the wind instead of tile, and the heat from the desert pavement is the only thing that warms you overnight. At the foot of billion-dollar hotel towers, the tent city is expanding every day. According to Clark County's 2025 Pit Count report, the area recorded 7,906 homeless individuals, with over 53% living entirely outdoors. That number doesn't just reflect poverty, it's a sign of a society cracking, as rent costs increased by 21% between 2020 and 2025, while service sector income only inched up by 3%. The distance between light and shadow is widening, 1 millimeter at a time, becoming clearer with each passing month. In reality, just by looking under the I-15 bridge, you'll see rows of tents stretching out, where people use plastic barrels for walls and temporary electrical wires pulled from streetlights. Police often avoid this route, while lines of tourists still queue several hundred meters away to enter the show. A glittering Vegas exists right next to a bare Vegas, two worlds coexisting under one light. Among those tents, there were people who once belonged to the center of light. As a 67-year-old man who used to work in lighting engineering at the MGM Grand, he has now temporarily set up a shelter less than 2 kilometers from the strip. He said slowly, "I still listen to music every night. It's just that I can't get tickets anymore." That saying sounds light, but it encapsulates the brokenness of an entire generation. Those who once served the Vegas dream, but are now left behind by that very dream. The image of neon lights reflecting on thin nylon sheets has become a symbol of the Las Vegas paradox today, where opulence and destitution meet, separated by just a street. And just like neon lights, everything here is dazzling but fragile. With just a strong gust of wind, the entire tent city could be swept away in the night, only to reappear the next morning in a different location, as if Vegas is replicating its own wounds. It's ironic that a city once built to sell dreams is now struggling to maintain reality. As thousands of workers who once brought prosperity to Vegas are being pushed to the margins, this crisis is no longer just about economics. It's a question of ethics, collective memory, and whether an icon can retain its human soul. The efforts of major brands like Caesars Entertainment to collaborate with the Help Hope Home initiative to expand shelter support, vocational training, and the Back to Work Las Vegas program are a commendable start. But as long as housing prices continue to rise, incomes remain stagnant, and hidden fees continue to eat away at workers' wallets, the tent city will remain the shadow of that light. Can Las Vegas find human value again amidst that dazzling spectacle? And if heaven already has hell right at its feet, what will happen when the final dominoes continue to fall? The decline of the Caesars was not just an isolated crisis. It was like the first shockwave in a chain reaction spreading across southern Nevada. When one of Vegas's most enduring icons falters, the entire system that depends on it, from hotels, restaurants, and taxis to suburban residential areas, begins to shake along with it. If Vegas was once the heart of the American entertainment industry, that heart is now beating unevenly. The American Gaming Association's State of the States 2025 report shows that revenue from iGaming and local casinos reached $8.41 billion in 2024, an increase of nearly 28.7% compared to the previous year. That boom, which seemed like a positive sign for the industry, is now eroding the motivation to fly to Vegas, once considered the irreplaceable capital of chance. As people can play cards right in their home state or on their phone app, Las Vegas is gradually losing the exclusivity that sustained it for decades. The effects spread faster than predicted. The LVCVA's mid-year report shows that citywide hotel room occupancy and revenue declined during the summer of 2025. The chain of restaurants, taxi services, and tourism transportation began to cut staff, creating a social domino effect. As the number of tourists decreased, restaurant revenue fell, leading to job losses in the service industry, which then spread to the food supply and logistics sectors. A city that once functioned like a well-oiled machine is now starting to malfunction from the smallest gears. Even the Vegas Strip, areas considered more stable, was not immune to the impact. According to the Nevada Department of Employment, Training and Rehabilitation, DETR 2025, the unemployment rate in the Las Vegas metropolitan area, MSA, is approximately 5.8%, with the increase spreading to Henderson, Primm, and Boulder City. When the core area becomes unbalanced, the satellite areas that depend on tourism and service revenue also begin to decline. Local restaurants are closed, rental apartments are vacant, and streets that were once bustling are now eerily quiet. Another cause, subtle but clear. The flow of international visitors, especially from Canada, has weakened significantly. The weak Canadian dollar and rising travel costs have led to a decline in visitor numbers. And as Caesars CEO himself admitted during a shareholder meeting, this is the most significant source of absence throughout the entire recovery cycle. When foreign tourists, who spend more than double what domestic tourists do, disappeared, Vegas lost not only money, but also the lifeblood of an economy built on emotion. This ripple effect is no longer within the scope of a single corporation. It's becoming an industry-wide structural problem, a bedrock crack that Vegas will find difficult to mend with just a few promotional packages. Many local economic experts believe that without systemic recovery strategies, from diversifying the tourism industry to controlling rental prices and developing affordable housing, the city could face its deepest recession since 2008. In the face of that wave, a few major brands have begun to take action. MGM Resorts announced the Vegas Reconnect program, aimed at retraining workers, supporting small businesses, and revitalizing community cultural activities around the Strip to restore domestic tourist traffic. Caesars, while facing financial difficulties, also announced it would expand its fund to support employees who lost their jobs, partnering with the Southern Nevada Workforce Board to create retraining programs in the hospitality and service sectors. How long can a city stand when the belts around it have begun to crack? And if the next domino is ready to fall, who will be left with the strength to pick them up? Or will it all just be an echo in the desert where neon lights cannot reach? There's a paradox quietly spreading. The brighter the light, the deeper the darkness. While the giant screens at Sphere still project mesmerizing light dances onto the desert sky, just a few blocks away, thousands who once contributed to that glory are sleeping in cars, tents, or on vacant lots. They were once waiters, stage engineers, security guards, chefs, the ordinary cogs in an extraordinary city. But as the Caesars empire spiraled into crisis, 50,000 livelihoods were also caught in a vicious cycle. The darkness Las Vegas is facing is not just economic collapse, but the darkness of faith as workers begin to believe that the American dream, which once shone brightly in this desert, is no longer for them. A survey by the Pew Research Center 2025 shows that over 60% of working-age Americans believe that hard work is no longer enough to ensure a stable life. In Las Vegas, that number seems even higher, as the city lives between two extremes: the dazzling lights and the patched-up tin roofs. Deeper down, what's happening in Vegas is no different from a metaphor for the entire United States. A nation once proud of its resilience, now struggling within the very model it created. Everything is optimized, from labor costs to living space, from salaries to every single tip. As a result, the very people who once drove the wheels of prosperity are now being crushed by those same wheels. The dollars saved from cutting work shifts become expenses for social security, temporary housing, and unemployment benefits, a problem that is far from efficient when viewed holistically. From a societal perspective, the ripple effect has begun. Satellite cities around Vegas, such as Henderson, North Las Vegas, and Boulder City, all saw a slight increase in poverty rates in 2025. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS 2025, the number of households in southern Nevada with incomes below the poverty line increased by 9.4% in just 2 years. Job instability in Vegas has led to a chain of psychological, health, and educational consequences, forcing many families to leave what they once considered the second home of the American dream. The issue is not just economic, it's an ethical question. When a city is built on the dreams of millions of ordinary people, who is responsible when those dreams collapse? Local government, corporations, and there's an entire culture that puts profit above human dignity. No one has a clear answer, but it's clear. Las Vegas is becoming a mirror reflecting America, where people still buy lottery tickets, still believe in luck, but fewer and fewer people believe in fairness. Las Vegas, a city once born from illusion, now has to learn to survive on truth. And perhaps the first truth it needs to face is, there can be no economic miracle if the people who create that miracle are sleeping under its own light. Will America dare to look at the example of Las Vegas and ask itself, what have we traded to get this light? And if one day those lights go out, will the American dream still be able to guide the very people who built it? Las Vegas may still be bright, but no amount of lights can save a city if the people who illuminate it have gradually disappeared from the picture. When Caesars collapsed, when 50,000 people were pushed to the brink of homelessness, this story was no longer just about one corporation. It's a reminder that behind every dazzling neon sign are calloused hands, restless nights, and dreams slowly fading under the weight of greed. Vegas was once built on aspiration, on the belief that with just effort and a little luck, anyone could change their life. But as that American dream is eroded by hidden fees, mounting debt, and indifference to the very people who created the miracle, the light seems only to reflect artificiality. The City of Hope is becoming a symbol of an economy where profit is valued more than dignity, and trust has become the greatest luxury. If Vegas truly wants to rediscover its magic, it must start by looking inward at how it treats the people who once created those bright lights. Only when a city values people more than numbers and knows how to restore trust more than revenue can its light endure longer than the night. If you believe stories like this need to be told, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue to shed light on the dark corners behind the American dream, where the truth sometimes shines brighter than neon lights. The content in this video is compiled from various public sources, including official reports, media data, and highly reliable independent studies. All data and opinions are presented for the purposes of analysis, education, and raising public awareness, and are not intended to affirm, accuse, or criticize any individual, organization, or business. This video does not represent the official views of any agency, organization, or brand mentioned. Our sole objective is to contribute to fostering social dialogue, encouraging empathy, and promoting a more humanistic understanding of the issues unfolding around us.